Over the weekend, a very disturbing video went viral of Minneapolis police officers fatally shooting 22-year-old Amir Locke. They had a no-knock warrant, and they entered the home where he was sleeping, and 9 seconds later, he was dead. 9 seconds. That's all it took. Now, if you're thinking, wait a second, no-knock raids, didn't we do away with that after Breonna Taylor was gunned down during a no-knock raid? Well, actually, no. They are still a thing in the United States of America, even after they've proven to be disastrous time and time again. And Amir Locke was not even the subject of their warrant. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but now he's dead. Let's go to the Philadelphia Inquirer, where Will Bunch explains, if you watch your local crime-soaked TV newscasts, you've probably seen reports about a recent spike in carjackings in some cities. In Minneapolis, a 22-year-old black man named Amir Locke, who occasionally worked deliveries for DoorDash, told his family those worries were why the young, aspiring musician with no criminal record went out and legally purchased a handgun. At 6:48 a.m. Wednesday, Locke was apparently soundly sleeping in a friend's downtown apartment when he was startled by 5 loud men coming through the front door, causing him to grab the nearby gun. In the pre-dawn utter chaos, we'll never know if Locke even heard the men shouting police, search warrant, or commanding him to get down and drop the weapon. It took just 9 seconds for those Minneapolis police officers who'd obtained a no-knock search warrant in a murder investigation to fire 3 shots that struck and killed the young man. Locke, it turned out, wasn't even being sought in the homicide probe. So just a forewarning, I'm going to play the video for you here. It shows it in slow motion first of all, and then towards the end of this clip, that's about 1 minute long, you'll see the full 9-second thing in real time. This is what Ben Crump says about this. He shared this video, and he writes, as Breonna Taylor showed us, no-knock warrants have deadly consequences for innocent, law-abiding black people. Minneapolis PD executed a no-knock warrant yesterday at 6:48 a.m., killing Amir Locke while he was wrapped in a blanket on the couch. Now we demand justice for Amir Locke. And without further ado, here's the video one more time. This is very, very graphic. Take a look.
Please search for it! Please search for it! Please search for it! Hands! Get on the ground! Get on the fucking ground!
So that's disturbing, to say the least. Now, put yourself in Amir Locke's position. Imagine it's 6:48 a.m. and you're sound asleep, and all of a sudden, 5 men barge loudly into your home, and they have guns, and there's flashlights. You wouldn't be able to process what's going on. Nobody would. Let alone hear them say police search warrant. I mean, sure, maybe he heard that, but there's no way his brain was able to quickly process that. He was sound asleep. He was wrapped in the blanket, literally. And so, legally, the police officers will not be held liable because he lunged for the gun, because he grabbed it. But the thing is that we hear conservatives all the time talk about the crime rate, right? And they claim arming yourself is only reasonable. That's why we have the Second Amendment, to protect yourself in your home. Now, that wasn't his home per se, but I mean, he was sleeping there. So if he was worried about crimes, and he purchased a gun, as a result of being worried about crime, and he doesn't know what's happening, people barge in, and he instinctively reaches for the gun, is that really his fault? It's so sad. Again, he has no criminal record, and he wasn't the target of their search. Now, we don't know what would happen in the event they didn't have this no-knock warrant, and they knocked first. But is there a chance he might still be here today to realize, oh, it's police officers, I could see through the peephole, it's them, let me put away my gun, or at least let them know that I have a legal firearm? We have no idea of knowing. But what this should tell everyone is that no-knock raids should not be acceptable in a civilized society. Now, you might be asking yourself, what will come of this? And the answer is probably nothing, because reasons. The filibuster, the parliamentarian, all of this. There was actually legislation that was proposed to ban no-knock raids. And can you guess where it is right now? It's just sitting, dying in Congress. No action being taken. And the story with regard to this particular legislation that Will Bunch talks about in this article, it's infuriating to see what happened to this legislation. So the growing number of no-knock raids that went horribly wrong, most notably the March 2020 killing of Louisville's Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician, which triggered months of protest in Kentucky's largest city, sparked promises of reform. That year, several congressional Republicans, led by South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, that chamber's only black Republican, joined Democrats in promising a federal law that would curb the most egregious police practices, even as some critics said the plan didn't go far enough. What became known in 2021 as the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act explicitly banned no-knock warrants for federal narcotics probes, and it dangled the powerful threat of barring federal dollars for state and local law enforcement agencies that refuse to curtail these types of raids. And some states and localities have indeed either banned or sharply restricted their use over the nearly 2 years since the botched Taylor break-in. It's likely that many more would have acted with passage of the George Floyd bill, but once the loud din of 2020's Black Lives Matter marches died down, Republican lawmakers whose lofty rhetoric about freedom seems to melt whenever it meets the police state sided with lobbyists for cop unions and stopped paying even lip service to reform. The proposal passed the House last March on a mostly party-line vote, but Scott admitted there weren't the 10 Republican Senate votes needed under the onerous filibuster regime. He even turned against his own bill. Imagine that. No desire to fight, no desire to push through, try to get this passed using budget reconciliation or trying to get any of his Republican colleagues on board. Just nothing. It just died. And he's like, okay, well, I can't find support, so I guess I'm against it now. Brilliant logic there, Tim Scott. Wow. Now, I don't know if this bill is broad enough to even apply to this instance because it cites narcotics there. I think that no-knock warrant should just be banned, full stop. But either way, this would have made a difference. It would have heavily disincentivized police departments from doing no-knock raids by hanging funding over their heads. But what are we doing instead? It's not just that we're doing nothing. We're actually encouraging police to have more budgets. It sounds ridiculous as I say it, but Joe Biden, the president of the United States, in response to calls to defund the police and police reform, he's encouraging police departments to use money from the American Rescue Act to increase the funding of police departments. Yeah, he's doing that. And as he does this, as he says things like that, encourages cities to use the American Rescue Act to bolster the already massive police budgets, you have the GOP and Fox News shrieking about how the police have already been defunded. We don't have any police. Didn't you notice? They're gone. They've been defunded by Democrats, folks. We don't see the police tanks rolling through neighborhoods. It's just they're gone now. They've been defunded. Thanks, Black Lives Matter. The situation is truly ridiculous. And what's sad is knowing that even with Democrats in control, nothing's going to get accomplished. It doesn't matter. There's no limit, really. There could be 20 more Amir Locks this year, and still no action would likely be taken because our country is fundamentally broken. A modern, civilized society would fix these problems. They'd respond with policies to these issues, but it's not going to happen. So, all we can do is grow increasingly angry, knowing that this is going to happen again because the police haven't been reformed. Democrats are trying to expand their budgets. It's infuriating because we know that this doesn't have to be the way things go. There doesn't have to be these deaths at the hands of police officers. But Congress is choosing to let this keep happening. And it's depressing. The silver lining is that at least the Minneapolis Police Department has suspended no-knock warrants, finally, after they killed Amir Locke. But we need federal action. Otherwise, nationwide, this will still be an occurrence that happens frequently where innocent people are killed because of these no-knock warrants.